I actually cannot believe my eyes. I saw this when it first broke, and I was shook to my core. I probably had the same reaction that most people watching this right now, or that even watch the NBA at all, thought to themselves too. That Shams got hacked, but he didn't. He wasn't hacked. And I am absolutely shocked, like I imagine many of you are, and I can't even process this yet. And it's been about 9 hours since the news broke for the time of this recording. I can't believe that the Lakers traded away Jalen Hood-Schifino. Absolutely can't believe that. But in all seriousness, this is actually the craziest trade of all time in any sport ever. This is the craziest trade. We are witnessing history right now. This is absolutely insane. And I think there is obviously a lot to talk about. But as of 12:12 a.m. on February 2nd, 2025, Eastern Time, by the way, the NBA landscape is changed forever. And this is the craziest piece of news, the craziest trade in NBA history and also North American sports and probably the entire world. So obviously, the biggest parts of this is Luka to the Lakers and AD to the Mavericks, obviously. But there's kind of, some Danny Ainge funky business here where he kind of just gets involved and just pretty much gets a couple of free things just to make this work for both sides. The Utah Jazz get Jalen Hood-Schifino, and they also get 2 second-round picks, one from the Clippers that was owned by the Lakers, I believe, and then one that was owned by Dallas, both of them for 2025. But I think the Jazz are just there just to make this work for cap space and whatnot, and to let this go through for both teams. But the Mavericks, I mean, they are the ones that facilitated and just initiated this whole thing. So I kind of want to talk about them first. They get Anthony Davis. They get Max Christie, who I was seeing the reactions to the actual game against the Knicks last night for the Lakers, and fans were starting to really like Max Christie's play and that he was really developing well and becoming the player that they thought that he could be. Mavericks also gets the Lakers 2029 first round pick, but that's it. They only get AD, Max Christie, and the 29 first round pick. The Lakers have a 2031 first round pick that was still eligible to be traded, and the Mavericks did not even get that. That was the last eligible first round pick owned by LA, and they get to keep it for Luka Doncic. I think that's one of the less talked about things with this trade, is that how do you not get everything that the Lakers have to offer in terms of draft capital alongside what they're already getting here? I think that's one of the biggest things outside of the actual immediate player swap. And then Lakers, obviously, they get Luka, Maxi Kleber, and Markieff Morris. So they get a couple of role players, and they get Luka. And wow, I mean, I thought, like most people, that this was fake when it first dropped. I couldn't believe it. I was actually about to go to sleep, and I was on my phone, and I saw this, and I was like, this is surely a hack. I saw that Bleacher Report gave me a notification too, and I was like, this is a very elaborate hack, but it's definitely a hack. This cannot be real. And I was also kind of thinking to myself, why would you hack Shams? Why would you possibly hack Bleacher Report only to tweet a trade like this that does not really seem like it's real? Like, it seems like pretty far-fetched, but no. And 9 hours later, I'm still trying to process this actually being real. So I guess forgive me, but absolutely insane. But that's just the entire deal. Now let's actually talk about what happened here. So it sounds like, from reporting by Dave McMenamin and Shams, and I think Chris Haynes also had some things to throw in there in terms of the story about this trade, and also Tim McMahon. This is a trade which we have never seen the likes of before. And by that, I mean, this is a high-level trade that, at least right now, it seems like a lot of people that are usually involved in making these kinds of decisions weren't actually involved. And by that, I mean, this is a trade in which the highest tiers of these organizations were the ones doing this, with nobody else having input, nobody else being involved, the players not being told about it. So this is, I mean, I guess that makes sense for the caliber of trade that this was, but to, at least based on reporting, not have any involvement from LeBron, not have any involvement from Anthony Davis, and no involvement from Luka Doncic, the stars that are kind of surrounding this whole deal, is actually kind of incredible. You know, people have always talked about and joked about and theorized about LeBron's involvement and kind of crafting the teams that he's been a part of since his last couple of years and his first stint with the Cavaliers. Like, ever since like 07-08 and kind of really starting right at the end and beginning of his Heat days, I think people have always talked about LeBron being the GM of the teams that he is a part of. And I think that most people, when they saw this and first came to terms with this actually being a real trade, they probably thought, so LeBron must have had a hand in this somehow. There must be some trouble in paradise between him and AD if this is going to go through, because LeBron has to have involvement. But no, it seems like LeBron did not have any involvement in this trade at all. And according to Dave McMenamin here, I'm going to read out his tweets. LeBron James learned of the Davis-Doncic trade after the Knicks game when it broke while he was out to dinner with his family. Sources close to James told ESPN. James was surprised by the news, is still processing it, and had no idea it was in the works, sources said. So that's one of three players that had no clue. And this is probably the guy out of all three that would probably have some idea of this trade developing and being talked about between the two sides. But LeBron, apparently, no idea. Who knows if that's actually the case? I think it probably is based on all that I'm seeing. But that is another factor that I think is also very strange in regards to this. Then you have Anthony Davis not being told about this. And I think that's also kind of wild to me, is that you have one of the guys that's been the kind of the staple of the Lakers. He's been talked up by LeBron and as Lakers brass pretty much as the face of the franchise right now, despite LeBron being the face of the league still. AD is the guy to work through for LA. And I think him not being told, it's not a bad thing, but it definitely is surprising. And then you've got Luka Doncic, who obviously is the face of the Mavericks. He has seemed really committed to their team throughout his time there. He was eligible for a Supermax extension coming off of this current season, and now he no longer is because of the trade. So this is kind of just a massive slap in the face for Luka, because this was not all that there is to talk about in regards to this trade, because the Mavs GM actually came out and gave a statement as the trade was kind of being announced. He said, "I believe that defense wins championships." This is Mavs GM Nico Harrison. He told this to ESPN pretty much right when the trade broke. And this is kind of his motivation apparently for this trade. "I believe that getting an all-defensive center and all-NBA player with a defensive mindset gives us a better chance to win a championship. We're built to win now and in the future." Buddy, Mr. Harrison, I'm not sure who you are, but I'm pretty sure that you guys were just in the NBA Finals with Luka Doncic on your team. You guys just won the Western Conference, which is arguably the tougher conference in the NBA to win, and you won it just last year, the most recent year possible to have done that, and you made the NBA Finals, and you played against one of the best rosters, one of the best coach teams in NBA history, the Boston Celtics from last season, and you lost. I'm not sure exactly what all the moving parts are in terms of any other factors playing a role in this trade outside of their qualms, it seems like, with Luka. But you were just in the finals. You were just a couple games away from winning your first title since the Dirk years. And you have a top 3 player in the NBA on your team. You are going to make the playoffs this year. And you trade away Luka Doncic because you think that getting an all-defensive center, an all-NBA player in this trade that wants to play defense and is good at playing defense, and you think that this is good for winning now and in the future. I'm not sure that actually lines up at all, because AD is, 31, but I think turning 32 from what I've seen in about a month from now. So you got a guy that is probably reaching the end of his peak, like most certainly. He is playing very well, has played very well all year long. One of his best years in recent seasons, but he is at the tail end of his peak. Probably's got, I would say, maximum 3 years at this level of play. I'd be shocked if AD continues this level of play beyond the next couple years. But not just that, it's also that this is a complete slap in the face for Luka. I mean, look at what Luka Harrison is kind of saying here between his teeth. He is saying that Luka can't play defense, which I think is, a pretty, globally agreed upon thought, is that Luka's not very good defensively. Maybe he'll have a couple of steals every now and then or whatnot, but he's not going to be a guy that's going to move the needle on the defensive side. And, that's fine, because the player of his caliber is putting up like 30, 10, and 10. I mean, if you're going to ask that guy to play defense, and you're going to get kind of mad about him not playing defense, like I do understand that to an extent, but to go this far as to trade him away, especially to the Lakers, I think is kind of ridiculous. I think this is, like most people are saying, one of the worst trades that you could make if you are the Mavericks. And it seems like it wasn't just the Mavs GM that was kind of disillusioned with Luka either, because I was seeing somebody talk about this in Spaces last night on Twitter, because I was all over it for the next 2 hours once it started. Like I was awake until about 2:30 a.m. just trying to process this trade. I still am now. But I was in a Spaces thing, and somebody was kind of talking about how Luka is like a 6 to 8% valuation of the entire Mavericks org as a whole in terms of like what they're worth. Like he's worth 6 to 8% of the entire organization from the top down. And so this is a huge move to make financially for Dallas, not only because you move away a player that was eligible for a Supermax, but this dude brought in so much money. He increased ticket prices for your team. He increased the attendance of your games. He is the face of the league, or one of the faces right now of the NBA. He is one of the most globally recognized players in the entire league, and he is worth so much more money than every other player in the league except for maybe 3 other players. And so for the ownership to have approved a move like this means that they were also convinced. And that is a damning indictment on Luka, I think, because imagine you are the ownership. Imagine you own the Mavericks, and you are coming off a year where you made the NBA Finals, and you have a player that brings in so much money every single year, and a guy that you know is going to keep your team at least at a pretty decent level as long as he's on the court. Teams with guys like Luka, I don't think are usually going to be really bad teams, and I think that the ownership probably agrees with that statement. But then you have your GM come to you and say, look, we've talked to our medical staff, and we are concerned about Luka's conditioning, and we're concerned about him not being good defensively. We're concerned that he's not really improving in either area, and in fact, he's probably gotten worse in the last couple of years in terms of his conditioning and his health. And I think it's time that we get what we can out of a trade for Luka instead of eventually having to trade him for less in a couple years, or trying to work this out. And if your ownership, this is a huge move to commit to because of the money side of things alone. But I think beyond this, it's also a question about how does AD fit into the Mavericks as well, because it seems like, based on reporting and according to Shams, is that the Mavericks, they were the ones to approach LA with this trade. They did not announce to the rest of the NBA that he was going to be available. They only approached a single team, and that was the Lakers, because apparently they had Anthony Davis in mind specifically for this trade. They approached the Lakers themselves. They offered them Luka. Imagine you are the Lakers. Imagine you are Rob Pelinka or Jeannie Buss, and you get a phone call from Nico Harrison, and he's like, hey, do you guys want Luka? You would say yes. You would probably not believe the phone call. You probably think it's a spoof call or somebody trying to mess with you. But no, it was real. And the Lakers, I mean, for money alone, it's the exact opposite of what the Mavs are thinking here. You've got Anthony Davis, obviously one of the best players in the league, like top 10, top 15. You've got LeBron, obviously, we know about him, face of the NBA for the last 20 years. But you've got both these guys that like playing with each other. They play well together. You've won a championship in years past with this duo. And since then, it's been a very up and down couple of seasons. You haven't really been a championship contender for the most part. You made the conference finals one year, lost against the Nuggets. And now you have Redick as your head coach, and you just made a trade a couple months ago, getting Dorian Finney-Smith, and then you get this phone call, and you're being told that you can go from Kobe to LeBron to Luka Doncic. That's not even including all the stars that came before Kobe, like Shaq and all the others. But the Lakers, again, have somehow found themselves with the face of the franchise for the next decade and potentially beyond that. Because Luka is only 25 years old. He's 25 years old. I mean, he is just beginning his peak. Like sure, he's been great over the past couple years, but he's probably just now reaching his athletic peak. And sure, there may be some conditioning concerns on the Mavericks side. He's going to have to pass a physical to have this trade be official and go through. And I'm just stunned. Because the Lakers just kind of got this handed to them on a silver platter. Yeah, I mean, that's just insane. Now, one thing I've been kind of thinking about as this trade has kind of been, sinking in with me over the last couple hours is that this could potentially have a major effect and a cascading effect on trades in the NBA in the next couple of years and, kind of later down the line too. Because, as I've already mentioned, the Mavericks, according to Tim McMahon and Shams, had concerns about his conditioning and were not fully committed to this upcoming Supermax contract extension in this upcoming summer. So, one guy that I think comes to mind in this exact same situation is with Zion. Obviously not going to be as big of a trade as this one because Zion's not that caliber of player, but he is still a franchise player. He is still a guy that I think a lot of teams would love to have as their number one talent. And Zion has the exact same issues that have plagued Luka, at least in the eyes of the Mavericks, with conditioning and not taking care of your body and not being as healthy as you can, kind of coming into work fat. I mean, the Mavericks are calling Luka fat here. Let's just be real here. They're calling Luka fat. They're calling Luka lazy. And it's kind of what the Pelicans have been calling Zion for the last couple years. He's fat. He's lazy. He's not really committed to fully being involved and fully working out and being fully ready for the seasons to start, and not really getting in shape as the year goes on either, and constantly being hurt. It's the same exact thing, just on a larger scale because of the kind of player that Luka is. So, how does this change things for Zion and kind of the thoughts about him being a potential trade target from the Pelicans? I think that's also a thing to consider here. And also, this, I think, also changes how teams might be thinking about their own stars later on. Like if there are other players that have health concerns or conditioning problems, or teams aren't fully ready to commit to a player's play style with a massive extension, this might be a new way that teams go about it. They might have a certain player in mind that they want to get, and they do think that, this is the guy that we can get, and that no other teams need to know about this. And so this could lead to more trades where only two teams talk in total, and deals get done in the shadows, as Shams has said here. And I think that's possible. But, also going against that idea is that if you're offering a guy with a star power and the kind of name recognition as Luka Doncic, you know that whatever team you're going to offer him to is going to say yes like 9 times out of 10. And I think that that's kind of why this trade worked this easily over the past couple of days, because it seems like this trade only happened over the last couple of days. But it's because it's Luka. It's because he is a top 3 player, and AD simply is not. That's just the simple, cut and dry metric here, is that AD, despite his health concerns and whatnot, he's a great player, but he's not the caliber of Luka. And I think that was obviously what has already convinced LA to make this move. So you've got Kyrie, Anthony Davis, and AD now, I guess, has the centers that he was asking for the Lakers to trade for. Because just a couple days ago, AD was talking about how he wanted the Lakers to make a trade for maybe somebody like Valanciunas or somebody that can play the 5. AD can move back to the 4, where I think he prefers to play as a power forward. And now he has that in Dallas, where they still have Derek Lively, they still have Gafford, who's going to start, it seems like, alongside ADs. So he gets that defensive center that can rebound and protect the rim. And apparently AD, according to Shams and Tim McMahon, is okay with it. Again, he was also not aware of this trade, but now he is aware of it, and he's fine with being traded. He was a 4-time All-Star with the Lakers, and he did actually play 93% of the Lakers games since since the start of 2023. So he has been the healthiest he's been along his career, probably for his entire career. He's probably the healthiest he's been as of, late. So that's a part to consider. We do know that LeBron loves playing with Luka, and he has wanted to play with Luka for a long time now. But I'm curious for LA, how is that going to work out? Because I think LeBron can play off the ball, obviously, but how does Luka work off the ball? Luka seems to be a guy that likes to be kind of a ball-dominant guard. He likes to have the ball in his hands. He likes to drive it. He likes to dribble it. He likes to pull up from three. Obviously, Luka can, catch and shoot and can, cut back door, cut down certain lanes and stuff and work like that. But I think both players prefer to have the ball in their hands and to make plays. Both guys are great passers, great playmakers, can score at all three levels. I think it's going to be really interesting to see who plays center now for LA, because they were talking about going after a center because AD was playing the 5 for the whole season. And now I guess they're going to play Jackson Hayes as their number 1 starter. Or does LeBron play the 5 now? I think it's going to be really interesting to see what Redick can kind of cook up as the Lakers head coach in terms of kind of what they do in terms of the X's and O's, because I don't think he was expecting this news either, because it seems like this was just the high-level brass. This was just the Buss family and Pelinka, and then the Mavericks ownership and Nico Harrison. That seems like that was the only guys that were involved in this trade alongside Danny Ainge with Utah, just to free up some cap space to make it work. But crazy trade. I think I addressed all that I wanted to kind of talk about here. Just insane, craziest trade ever. I'm still trying to fully accept it. But I'm going to be locked into watching the Lakers and Mavericks now for the next couple games to see what it actually looks like and to have it fully sink in, hopefully for the first time. But crazy, crazy trade. I'm absolutely shocked by it, as are many of you. But it's real. It happened. And there you go. That's all I got. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And peace out.